the Dark Diva, and welcome to another edition in our Whiskey Diva Series, where we're looking at different types of whiskey. Now, I just did one on tasting sort of competition between 5 different Irish whiskeys, but also on Friday, when I bought the Irish, I bought a bottle of Gunpowder Rye Whiskey. Now, this is made by New England Distilling in Portland, Maine, but it's based on a recipe that runs in the owner's family back about 150 years to the Hunt Valley of Maryland. Now, the quick history on this, there were 2 types. Rye was very prominent in the Northeast before bourbon kind of moved up from the South and displaced it as the predominant whiskey. And it was popular out West. I remember when I was growing up, Westerns were everywhere. You couldn't get away from them. And a lot of times we walk into the saloon to order a rye. Why I remember that, I don't know. I wish I could remember things that were important for other things. But they would order rye. I used to wonder, what is rye? I never saw it in my parents' house. Well, it turns out, like I said, bourbon has generally displaced it, although it is making a comeback. And there are a number of ryes out there, but as part of the craft distilling industry, again, New England distiller, it's small batch, and it's very interesting. To qualify as rye whiskey in America, it has to be 51% rye at the minimum in the balance of ingredients. Now, and it has to be aged for less than 2 years in oak barrels to be like rye straight whiskey, or straight rye whiskey. I think is the more appropriate terminology, if you will. Anyway, this one is interesting because unlike, say, Pennsylvania, which would have some corn in it, as well as the barley, the Maryland style is just the rye and the barley, no corn. And this one happens to be approximately 70-30 break, 70% rye, 30% barley. And it makes for something a little different because the corn is what gives it sweetness. If you've tried something like Sazerac, straight rye whiskey, and some of the others, they're made with, I think Sazerac's made with about 38% corn or something like that. So it's sweeter. So this comes as kind of a refreshing difference. Now, the reason I brought the rye, just a quick background. We have Mardi Gras coming up. It's actually, I think, partially going on now, but we have Fat Tuesday. And I wanted to make some Sazerac cocktail. It's something I'm experimenting with, and you need rye. And so I thought, well, we'll try this. It's going to be a little different because it doesn't have the sweetness that, say, Sazerac, the traditional rye for Sazerac do. But I think it will provide an interesting taste. We'll see how it works. Wanted to give this a try. A very distinctive bottle, by the way. And I noted another reviewer online said that it looks darker in here than it does. Now, this is in the glass with a cube of ice and just a splash of water. Now, on first sip, this is a little, it's an acquired taste. I will put it there. If you're used to bourbon, even Irish, some of the other whiskeys, this one is definitely different. Now, it's not in a bad way, but it is a bit of, you have to get used to it. Kind of change your expectations. There is throughout, I would say, the wood notes, and there's a bit of smokiness to it. A little bit like a wood fire. Not like the smokiness of peat, but just a little bit of a fireplace. That maybe not going at full roar, but just has that a bit of smoke in the air, and there's a mix of other aromas with it, and it's not at all unpleasant. It's kind of warming, but it is different. And you have some other notes. There's a bit of vanilla intertwined, it's a bit of spice, and you get more of that again in an open glass with, like I said, a bit of ice, maybe a splash of water that releases more of the notes. And of course, it definitely the rye. You know, if you were used to rye bread, for example, there is a very distinctive quality to the rye. It's a dominant, not unpleasant at all. I love rye, but again, it dominates naturally because that's what it's predominantly made with. But it is an interesting spirit. and it does grow on you. It gets mellower as you go. And again, if you're a rye fan, it's a lot easier. I have not had a lot of experience with rye, so this was something kind of fun. I like to try different things. I would highly recommend it. I do. Um, you're not going to find it in like what we were talking about in the higher end, say Irish whiskey or Scotch or bourbon in the upper echelons there. It's not quite that smooth because it doesn't have the sweetness, and yet it is a very attractive whiskey. Um, it's light. In I mean, it doesn't like assault your senses. It's light in that, but it's got strong character. Now that may sound like a bit of a what is the term? My memory is just goes out the door. Yeah, it's a bit of a dichotomy, I suppose, and it sounds like a bit of a conflict. How can you be one? You have to be one or the other. Not necessarily. I think you will enjoy it. I'm going to highly recommend it. I'm looking forward to seeing how it does in the Sazeracs, and I will be doing some video and probably fill in my blog, and we'll be doing some more about that. So anyway, not going to take a lot more of your time today, but I want to thank you for tuning in. This is Gunpowder Rye from New England Distilling in Portland, Maine. It's available in a reasonable amount throughout New England, as I understand, in the Washington, D.C. area. So if you're in either one of those areas, I suggest giving it a try. If you like whiskey, it's definitely worth a try. And I would be interested in hearing what you think about it. And email me, post a message, comments on the video. Please hit the subscribe button and like us. And you can also find me on my website, thedarkdivarules.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So please, and send me an email at missbree@thedarkdivarules.com. So thank you for tuning in to our Whiskey Diva series. We'll be back with more, and as I always say, cheers.